there's long road trips you can take, and you always kind of got to be prepared for it, maybe a mechanical breakdown, especially if you're driving an older vehicle. I've been in that position a couple times, but being in the car business, you get a breakdown, you know how to fix something, or you know who to call, you know how to shift gears and kind of make it happen real quick. A lot of people, if they're on a road and they're 1,000 miles from home and they break down, they're at the mercy of a tow truck, the local auto repair place, and pray that they don't get bent over and pay way too much for a repair, service charge, or toll. That's kind of how that goes. We were on a road trip last summer. We were heading actually to Alaska. We were driving to Alaska from Phoenix with a couple of friends. And it was a whole group of us going, and we were all meeting in Olympia, Washington. So we were coming out of Phoenix, Arizona, where my shop is. And a couple of friends came over from the UK. My buddy Spencer. He wanted to do this run to Glacier View, which if you don't know what Glacier View is, it's where they launch all the cars off the cliff. I've always wanted to do it. It was the most amazing thing we've ever done. So I was like, yeah. He goes, can you find a vehicle that we can do it with? I said, yeah. So I went to the Mannheim Phoenix dealer auction, and I said, well, we got to have a minivan because he's going to have a bunch of gear and suitcases and stuff because he's traveling for a month with a couple of people. And I said, we might as well be comfortable. So I buy a 2000 Chevy Venture, 173,000 miles on it, that typical GM pewter gold, tan interior, the most malaise minivan you could get. It had dead miss in it when I bought it. And I said, I don't mess around with it. I get it back to the shop. I think we paid like $1,000 for it. And it was clean. The inside looks like it was never sat in. And I got the backstory on that. I'm like, how's this thing have 173,000 miles and it's like brand new? So I get it back to the shop. I'm screwing around with it and it's just got this dead miss. I pop the hood, it's running. As it's running, I can hear a click, 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 like a spark. I'm like, what the hell is that? I bend down and in the back of the motor where the coil pack is, it's a spark plug wire off and it's just arcing. I'm like, oh, somebody did the old pull the spark plug wire at the auction trick. You know, this way it sells cheap. Well, apparently they did it and they didn't buy it. So I shut it off, plug it in, reach in, start it up, starts right up, runs so good because I had to get this thing registered because we have to drive it across the Canadian border. I run into emissions. The thing passes with flying colors. Like $1,000 car at the dealer sale, passes emissions, unheard of. They fly in, we take off. Now, in the interim, we take this thing and it's all painted kind of funky and everything, and we're driving up to Olympia, Washington to meet a group of other people. And then from there, we're doing the Alcan Highway all the way up to Glacier View, Alaska. It was just an unbelievable and amazing drive. I went with a group of people that are the most fantastic people in the world. A bunch of them have sat in this chair, and we had a great time. So we get to Olympia, Washington. We drove for 22 hours straight from Phoenix. We're the first ones there. Other guys are rolling in. It's like 10:30 in the morning. I get my hotel room. And Spencer and his wife, they're all jacked up. You know, they're from the UK. So for them, everything's a new experience for them. And he's like, we got to go to the Harley dealer and buy some T-shirts. All right, see you later. Take the van. Have a nice day. I'm going to bed. It's like noon. I'm laying in bed. I barely doze off. My phone rings, and it's Spencer. I'm like, what's up? He goes, the van's dead. With his English accent, it was pretty funny. I can't do an English accent, but it was pretty funny. I'm like, okay, where are you? He goes, I'm on the interstate. I said, okay, give me the exit. Hey, he's like 6 miles away. Well, we didn't have a gas gauge, by the way. We just calculated every 250, 300 miles we'd fill it up. And because it needed a sending unit, which is part of the fuel pump. So I said, all right. I said, I'll Uber over to you. So I get there. I said, look in the back of the van. There's a box. There's some spares. There's a test light. I said, make sure it's in there. He goes, yeah. I said, okay. Uber drops me off. The Uber guy was cool. He goes, I'll hang out in case you need a ride to an auto parts store or nothing. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I jump underneath the van with the test light. I said, turn the ignition on. I turned the ignition on. I don't hear the fuel pump running. I probed the fuel pump. Dead. I said, it needs a fuel pump. That's the problem. So I'm like, all right. I said, we can put a fuel pump in the parking lot of the hotel. I said, but man, I really hate to drop the tank. So I'm Googling, and I find a guy that did a video on the same van, and he didn't want to drop the tank because it was a real rusty van out of the Midwest. So he figured out where to cut a hole in the floor to pull it out of the floor. So he gives the perfect measurements. Off the door jamb, in, pop the seat out, cut the carpet right there. I'm like, we got to cut a hole right here. The fuel pump's there. I said, let's get it back to the hotel. We'll go to Home Depot. I'll get a cutoff wheel. I'll buy the fuel pump. We'll drop it in. So as I'm waiting for a tow truck, I'm going through. There's an auto repair place. Literally, I can see the guy's roof from the highway. So I call him up. I tell him where I'm at. And he goes, yeah. He goes, can you bring it over now? I said, yes, the tow truck's going to be here any minute. No sooner I said that, tow truck pulls up. I got the tow truck there in like 10 minutes on the thing, and we're at this guy's shop, start to finish, 30 minutes. We get there, and the guy's like, what's it? I said, needs fuel pump. I said, you don't got to drop the tank. I said, I'm going to pop the seat out. I'm going to cut the carpet. You're going to cut a hole right there. He goes, are you sure? And then we told him what we were doing with the van, and he goes, oh, that's cool. So the guy gives me his car to use. I run over to Napa. I buy a fuel pump for it, Come back. He's got the hole cut out, got the flap open, got the fuel pump out. I hand it to him, put it in. They change the plug because you got to change the plug. You retrofit the plug on the new one. Flap it closed, put the carpet down, snap the seat in. 40 minutes, we're done. We went from breakdown to tow truck to pulling out of the auto repair place in probably an hour and a half. It's unheard of. Unless you know what you're doing, you got to make a plan and make it happen. Get back to the hotel, everybody's happy. Spencer, who was my buddy from England, he couldn't believe how fast he goes, how do you know how to do this? He goes, I would have been stuck. I said, I've been in the car business for 40 years. I said, you just figure it out as you go along. From there, we drove that van, $1,000 van with 180,000 miles on it, basically, for 2,200 miles up the Alcan Highway with 6 other vehicles. And it was an absolute blast. We did 500 miles a day, 600 miles a day. We had pre-planned stops. You had to plan all your fuel stops. It was such a great trip. We get up there, everyone's having a good time. And we send this thing over the cliff for its final send-off, and this thing launches off the cliff like a rocket. It just sails and sails and sails and sails and sails, and boom, right to the water's edge, because there's like a retention pond that they build in to catch the cars that go real far. There's 10,000 people there. They're launching 35 cars off a cliff. It's a big party. There's music. There's food. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Glacier View, take my advice, make the trip. It was well worth it. And if you ever get stuck on a road and you got a problem, look me up, I'll help you out.
Right now, we've got the best deal we've ever offered from Avalon King. Their AS9 DIY ceramic coating is $30 off at the link in the description below, making it the best value in the world of ceramic coatings. They've also got half off of their IPA prep spray if you want that as well. It makes it so much easier to put the coating on, to level it out, and get the shine that you're looking for. One box is enough for a small to medium-sized car, maybe 2 if you've got a big SUV, and really anybody can coat an entire car in about an hour and a half. So check them out now at the link in the description below to thank them for their support of VINwiki and make your car look incredible with Avalon King.